In the modern day of football, it's not quite often you could say that a running back carries a team. It is a very rare situation that does not occur often with the current day passing schemes. However, there are some running backs that do in fact carry their teams. Players like Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey in the NFL, and Jonathan Taylor and Chuba Hubbard in college football. Now that Jonathan Taylor has become a young NFL star since being drafted in the spring, Chuba Hubbard is the college running back that every program wishes they had. He has a lot of expectations coming into the 2021 NFL Draft. But the real question is, who is Chuba Hubbard? In the Who Is series, we go through the backstories of up-and-coming collegiate and professional athletes. If you like what you see, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Chuba Robert Shamar Hubbard was born on June 11, 1999 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. One of America's youngest and most promising college football players is actually a Canadian football prospect. You may probably think that because he was a Canadian football player, he did not have as many eyes on him as an American football superstar would. However, that was not the case, and not even close to being the case. During his time in high school, he was one of the most dominating running backs in Canada and one of the most dominating running backs in North American high school football. During his childhood, he was a very versatile athlete. He played a couple of sports, but football was his main focus. In 2013, he enrolled at Bev Fosse Community High School. At Bev Fosse High School, Chuba Hubbard was an absolute superstar in his 3 years playing varsity football. He rushed for 6,880 yards on 458 attempts with 82 touchdowns. He averaged over 2,200 rushing yards per year and over 27 touchdowns per year. 458 rushing attempts in his career, he averaged an incredible 15 yards per carry. Over a 3-year period, he averaged a first down every single time he rushed the football. And for every single time he rushed the ball, he scored on every 5th rush. His touchdowns to rush ratio was 1-5. Putting up these kinds of numbers, there was no way that any school was going to miss out on this prospect, right? Well, a bunch of them missed out, but it was not because they didn't offer him a scholarship. Hubbard was a very highly touted prospect. 24/7 Sports rated him as a 4-star, 92 overall prospect. He was the 10th ranked player in the nation, which seems kind of crazy based on his statistics. That did not stop him from receiving offers from 25 different teams. Now, living in Canada and growing up in Canada, moving into an entire new country is something that's really tough. However, no one was more excited and more looking forward to it than Hubbard. As previously stated, of the 25 offers he received, there are 4 to 7 teams that are consistently ranked in the top 25 every year of college football. In fact, some of the highlighted teams that he received offers from were Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Miami, Oklahoma, Oregon, Iowa State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and the University of Central Florida. Although it may have seemed like the schools were going to miss out on such a good prospect because he was in another country, they sent their scouts to watch him, and they did not miss a thing. Not only was he a fantastic prospect, but he was an ideal size and weight, as he was 6'1" and 205 pounds as a senior in high school. His measurables were very favorable, and that led to even more offers rolling in. Now, because of where Chuba Hubbard lived, many thought that he would choose a northern state in the United States. However, he was offered all around the country. He was offered anywhere from Florida to Oregon to Alabama to Missouri. He even received offers in Michigan and Texas. But since he lived in Canada, 24/7 Sports and many scouts around the country had him as an almost lock to be an Oregon Duck. But that did not happen. On January 20th, 2017, Hubbard made his one and only college visit, and that was to Oklahoma State. He absolutely fell in love with the campus and atmosphere and the football program, and he officially enrolled to Oklahoma State soon after. In fact, only 12 days after his visit, he signed his letter of intent, and then officially enrolled at Oklahoma State University on June 30th, 2017. Like most freshmen at great college football programs, Chuba Hubbard did not spend his first year on the field. He spent his first year learning the program and learning more about his craft. Because of this, he redshirted his entire first year in 2017. It was the right move for him, as he did need to tune up some of his skills. In 2018, he was ready to go. He played in 13 games. He was not the starting running back in 2018. In fact, he got on the field, but he played in more of a backup role. He split time with 3 other running backs and began the season as the 3rd string running back. Justice Hill had the most carries from anyone in the backfield, running the ball 158 times for 930 yards and 9 touchdowns. In the Mike Gundy offense, the running backs were utilized to their best abilities. Towards the end of the 2018 season, Hubbard had secured the starting job. Against in-state rival Oklahoma, he rushed 22 times for 104 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also caught 5 passes for 49 yards in a close loss to Oklahoma by a score of 48-47. The next week, he remained the hot hand, and he was fed the ball 26 times for 134 yards and no touchdowns. However, he caught 5 more passes for 24 yards and got in the end zone through the air. He helped lead his team to a 45-41 win over Will Grier and West Virginia University. Hubbard was impressing his coaches, and especially doing it against such high-caliber teams was eye-popping. During the last game of the regular season, he ran the ball 13 times for 42 yards and a touchdown in a loss to TCU. He played well, but ultimately, they were outmatched by TCU. On December 31st, 2018, in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl versus Missouri, Oklahoma State University won by a score of 38-33 behind the legs of Hubbard. He rushed 18 times for 145 yards and 1 touchdown. He also caught 3 passes for 37 yards, and he sealed up the #1 running back job for the next season. During the offseason, Hubbard continued to impress his coaches with his work ethic on and off the field, and they awarded him by giving him the 2019 opening day start. On opening day, he rushed 26 times for 221 yards and 3 touchdowns against Oregon State University. He played unbelievable in his first game of the season, even breaking off a 53-yard run. Next week, against the not-so-great McNeese Cowboys team, he rushed only 8 times for 44 yards and a touchdown. Because the matchup was not a marquee matchup, he did not stay in the game long, but made his mark while he was in. They won by a score of 56-14, and Oklahoma State University was off to a hot start. The next week, their hot start continued against Tulsa as Hubbard ran 32 times for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns, and during the game, he broke off a long 75-yard touchdown run. They won that game too by a score of 40-21, and they had a big matchup against Texas the next week. Unfortunately, against Texas, they did not pull out the win, losing by a score of 36-30. Hubbard did everything he could as he ran 37 times for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. Texas outmatched Oklahoma State University, but they were looking forward to another ranked opponent the next week. The next week, they played against Kansas State University, winning by a score of 26-13. Hubbard ran 25 times for over 296 yards and a touchdown. He broke off another huge run on an 84-yard touchdown run to give his team the lead. Hubbard quickly turned into their bell cow running back, and they were going to be leaning on him for the rest of the season. Oklahoma State University was going through a rough patch the next couple of weeks as their defense gave up 45 points in back-to-back weeks, leading to 2 straight losses against Texas Tech and Baylor. Hubbard did his part, rushing for a combined 327 yards and 5 touchdowns on 66 attempts. Now, for the rest of the season, Oklahoma State University decided they were going to lean completely on their running back, and he did not have a game with under 20 carries. They won their next 5 straight, beating Iowa State, TCU, Kansas, and West Virginia. And in a very important end-of-the-season matchup, they unfortunately lost to Oklahoma by a score of 34-16, even though Hubbard had 100 yards and a touchdown. Although it was a bit of a turbulent season, they made the Academy Sports and Outdoor Texas Bowl, where they lost to Texas A&M by a score of 24-21. Hubbard once again rushed 19 times for 158 yards. He was easily college football's best running back outside of arguably Jonathan Taylor. He had a big decision coming up because many were expecting him to declare for the NFL draft. After rushing 328 times for 2,094 yards and 21 touchdowns with a long run of 92 yards for a touchdown, Hubbard was at the top of his game. But since big-name running backs such as Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, and J.K. Dobbins all entered the draft, he decided it was best for him to wait until next year. Well, the 2020 season has started off well for Hubbard. Oklahoma State won against Tulsa, and he rushed the ball 27 times for 93 yards and a touchdown, as his touchdown put his team in the lead and they never lost it for the rest of the game. They won by a score of 16-7, and they had West Virginia the next week. West Virginia also could not stop Hubbard, as he ran 22 times for 101 yards and another touchdown. It seemed like it was becoming a trend, and Kansas was next. The next week, they beat Kansas by a score of 47-7. Hubbard ran 20 times for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is without a doubt a great running back prospect, and he might just be a first-round pick in the upcoming NFL draft. He is one of the most interesting college football prospects to keep your eyes on, and he will definitely keep you glued to the Oklahoma State University games every Saturday. If you like this video, check out my other videos in the Who Is series. Remember to subscribe to the channel and embrace the grind.